Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rage and Love, where we passionately debate, explore, and review topics of religion, history, science, and current events. You know, in our community, just because we are part of, an atheist or non-believers community, it doesn't mean that we don't engage with believers. So tonight we're going to learn how to navigate interfaith relationships, and not just like with romantic partners, right? It can be with family, friends, co-workers, and even strangers. How do we build bridges when our beliefs or lack of thereof are so different? Can we stay kind? Can we be curious? Can we be honest when faith is such a personal thing? Now, I think humanism is where we can find the skills to do this. Humanism isn't just a worldview, it's where, it's sort of a way to connect with others through empathy, through reason, and through our shared humanity. So, what does it mean from a humanist standpoint or perspective to love, to parent, or to work alongside people of varied beliefs without losing ourselves and our own values? And our guest tonight is the author of Humanism from the Heart, Building Bridges Beyond Belief. Welcome to the stage. Steve, how are you doing?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Um, So you've been on the show before. You've been on the show before. Long
Yeah, and
time.
it was cool because I didn't get to meet you before the show last time, and then we got to meet in between, and now we're good friends. So this is really cool.
I know that was my idea. I was like, okay, have him before, then we met at NanoCon, and then
Yep.
have you back after because I have your little copy over here that you gave me, the design book, cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, there you
Look at that
go.
cool signature, right?
Yeah. No, I love paper books, right? Because I mean, you can listen to audiobooks or you can read them, read books online and stuff like that. But there's nothing like just sitting with an actual book and getting lost in the pages. I think like
Yeah,
online is just so much distraction. Like I can't always like focus on a book when I'm reading it online.
that's true.
Maybe
And
it's just
a lot of people do like the audiobook, and it's funny because I always say that I'm the poor man Seth Andrews because I did the audiobook myself, and I think it was Jason Freer who actually said that I'm the Timu version of Seth Andrews.
I did too.
I think it was you,
That's so
Jason. I can't
funny.
remember. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
Uh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. There's no set, but you can be the cheaper version.
Yeah, exactly.
No, calling you cheap, but
The IKEA version, yeah.
All right. So yeah, so NanoCon was so much fun. That sense of community of being around people who 'cause not everybody was non-believers, right? I mean, we had
Yeah,
April Joy that was there with her partner and their kids, and they're believers, and I think there were some other families that came along where it was like maybe a husband who's a believer and a wife who's not, or the other way around.
yeah.
And it's like it was like a mixture of interfaith people and
It was for sure.
who all had the same common ground of humanism, I feel. Because there's a lot of very very hardcore like atheist conventions where it's just like majorly talk about atheism, but I feel like nanocon was different on that sense because there was so many different conversations, like yours was about humanism, right? It was about your book.
Yeah, it was about building bridges between different faiths and no faith. And it's funny because as you're talking about this, I remember when you made the advertisement for my talk, and there was a minister that was on my page who on my Facebook who commented that whoever read this or whoever wrote this didn't read your book or something like that. And it's just like, well, this conference is more of like an atheist conference. It's less about humanism. But I mean, there was that aspect to it, and like you said, there was a lot of people there, different backgrounds and beliefs, and yeah, the presentation I did there was awesome because there was a lot of people in the audience that were in that situation, and then some people who were like more of the scathing atheist side, where they're like, how can you get along with other people and that type of thing. So it was kind of cool to see that mix and be able to provide the resources to be able to do that. So
Yeah, I think it's we can see sort of the spectrum, right? Because you have people who are like in that angry atheist phase, like
yeah,
just beginning to discover atheism. I mean, I think we all well went through it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but
definitely,
I
yeah,
did.
definitely, yeah.
We are like really angry at religion and the harm that it does, and
Hmm.
then you have the people. I don't know. You can say Christian nationalists at the very other far end, and then you have all kinds of people all along the way. And I have lots of family members who are religious, who are theists and believers, and like we get along great. Like and not all of them are Christian nationalists. They don't vote for who, and they don't vote for bad um for bad legislation and stuff like that harms other people. So it's like
Yeah.
or we have people that, like, we met April A Joy, who was at NanoCon, and I think she's amazing. She does, like, I follow her content, and she does a lot of funny like puns on religion,
Yeah, she
but
does.
yeah, but also like funny stuff, right? Like it makes you laugh.
Hmm.
But then she also makes heartfelt content where she's like, look, we all want everybody to have basic human rights. Like, you see them pushing against the Christian nationalists, pushing against fascism, pushing against ICE, and all of those things that you're like, okay, I can work with people of that kind of faith,
Yeah,
where it's like without
definitely.
not taking away other people's rights.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's the one thing that we kind of mentioned this, where humanism kind of underlies everything, right? So like if you are going to see the world from a humanist perspective, even if you have a faith of some sort, you can still, rely on that humanism. You can call yourself a humanist Christian, or you can call yourself a humanist Muslim, as long as you're applying the principles of humanism over the dogma of your belief. And that's, my wife calls herself a Christian humanist because she feels that humanism is basically the way to live, and she wants to have some ties back to her original belief system. So
I love that. That's great. Yeah, we have a local representative here in Texas, James Talarico,
hmm,
and he's studying to be a minister, but he's also running for. I think he's running for Senate currently, and you you see him speak up against the Ten Commandments in school. He does not want the Ten Commandments in school. He does not want prayer in school. He's very clear about, I have my faith and I practice it at home and I practice it at my church.
right.
But it shouldn't be in public. It shouldn't be forced. Like, he's like, if I see kids who are Buddhist or Jewish or I don't know, Hindus, like, I don't want them to feel like they have to follow these Ten Commandments put on the wall for everybody to follow. It's like, so
Yeah.
like,
There's definitely people that are, faith leaders and other people of faith as well that are basically dead set on the separation of religion and government, because it's an important thing to keep separate. The other thing too is that I feel that I think they're starting to clue in that if they try and shove it down people's throats, it usually causes the opposite effect, right?
yeah, for sure it does. So before we get started, I'm gonna put real quick this banner down here. So your book is called Humanism from the Heart: Building Bridges Beyond Belief, and your name is Steve Ghikadis, and people can find your book on Amazon. And there's a couple of different options that I saw. So people can buy like the paperback for about $15, or if they have a membership with Audible, they can get it for 99 cents, or they can buy a full copy on Kindle for $6.
Yeah, and it's on
Uh,
Kindle Unlimited as well. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for
yeah,
free.
just read it, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
and I try every 3 months they let you put it up for free for like a week. So I usually try and do that, and I usually just send a little message out to people saying, hey, it's free for this week if anyone wants to get it. So
That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. So so what led you? What made you decide to put all of these stories and life lessons and humanistic views into one little what
a
I
book collection,
on
yeah.
my yeah, on my review I call it better than the Bible, which I think it is. it's
Well, thank you.
it's smaller. It's a lot smaller.
I mean, I didn't have to do much to make that happen, but
Right, yeah.
but yeah, so basically, I was putting a blog up on Medium through Recovering from Religion because they have a Medium channel there called Excommunications. So I put up my first one, and then people were like, "Oh, this is really cool. This idea of interfaith relationships. So can you tell me a bit more about it?" So I started writing more blogs about it, and when it came time to people were saying like, "Hey, you should compile this into a book," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So I just kind of threw everything together and gave it to a girl who was going to edit it for me, and she's like, "Yeah, this is no good." And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh
okay."
no.
She's like, "It's great." She's like, "A great story is really funny and
Oh,
everything, but it doesn't have a theme to run through it. So just go back to the drawing board." And at that point, I'm like, "Never mind. I'm not going to bother writing this. Like, it was just for fun anyway." And then I was doing another podcast, and we were trying to come up with the name of a segment. And I'm like, well, it's from the heart, so maybe Humanism from the Heart. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to use that for the segment. I want to use that for my book. So I ended up calling my book that. And at that point, everything started flowing, and I was able to rewrite the stories and start from scratch and kind of make a narrative from beginning to end. So it's a lot of stories about the things that have happened in my life where I came into contact with religion. And the whole point of the book is basically to show that it is possible to get along with people with different backgrounds and beliefs as long as you're not a dick. And that's basically the main theme of the book.
that's a good point. Yeah. I have I have a hard time like now that I've been an open atheist, and I think before I couldn't really see the harms of religion, and so now like having seen it with Christian nationalism and stuff like that, it's like whenever I meet somebody and I realize that they're like deeply religious, I have such a bias and I hate it. I hate
Right.
it. I need to
Mhm.
reread your book and do better at that. Which is why I wanted to have this conversation. Okay, it's a good reminder of being like, hey, you know what? As long as people not being dicks, it doesn't really matter what their beliefs is. Like
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the and all for our friendships, right? Like just
Right.
because like it doesn't mean I should like just completely cut someone off or be like, oh, okay, you're wearing a cross, never mind, bye.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
And
what
and,
he said.
and Dr. Del Rey talks about this in his book, The God Virus, where you don't have to address the religion at all. If someone comes up to me and says, like, "Oh, I want to talk to you about Jesus," I'll be like, "No, thank you, but can we talk about the store that just opened up down the street?" Right? Like you can be polite about it and just move on to a different topic. You don't have to talk about it. If you feel like you want to, that's okay too. And there's different ways to talk about it. You can talk about it in a way that's like you can ask them questions as to why they believe it, or you can just say like, yeah, I talked to a lot of people with different faiths and beliefs. I talked to somebody who's a Muslim the other day, and he told me this. What do you think about that? There's lots of different things that you can mention and get into in those different types of conversations.
I see. Dave said one commandment kind of covers it. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, yeah, and that's basically the end all and be all of my book. So if you want to save yourself $15, just don't be a dick.
That's like the summary. I mean, I guess you could have called it humanism from the heart. Don't be a dick.
Yeah,
That would
I
have
think
been
that
really.
the publisher and editor probably wouldn't have liked that part, but
Damn it.
yeah,
So for me, I would say if I think about it, probably romantic partnerships can be like the hardest when people have different worldviews, and especially like around religion and spirituality, because like we can talk about politics, like having different politics and stuff like that, but like when it comes to the God belief, it can be really hard to mesh to to very opposing worldviews, I guess. And with family, a lot of people will say, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion with the family. And sure, you can do that in public. You can do that with coworkers, or you can do that at family gatherings, right? You can keep those apart. But how do you even keep such a thing separate when it comes to a romantic partner? Is that good advice even?
Yeah, so it just kind of depends on where each of you are at in your belief or lack of belief. I mean, it's definitely difficult when you're an angry atheist trying to find any type of common ground. It's also difficult if you are, an extreme religious person. So a lot of times when we think about religious people, if I, try and think of just a typical Christian, like sometimes your mind goes to Joel Osteen, when they're just like, mega church trying to steal your money kind of thing, or Kenneth Copeland, just crazy demon person, right? Just really scary people. And then when people think of atheists, they think of Christopher Hitchens or someone who's going to like, degrade you. But a lot of people are on that spectrum in between, like we talked about before, right? So if you're along that spectrum, somewhere closer to the middle, it's easier to have those conversations and it's easier to get along. And the one thing that you can try and keep in mind is that you probably share, close to 90% of the same views and beliefs. Um, some people just go one step further with a belief in something, and it just depends on how important that is to you. But like when I talk about my wife, I say we agree on 99% of pretty much everything. We just disagree on how the universe came about. So when you think about it, it's actually a really small thing. But it's definitely difficult when someone could think that you're potentially going to be going to hell, and then that's going to be a more difficult way to live. If someone's constantly thinking that you're going to be burning for eternity somewhere, um, it's definitely a difficult chat. And when that does happen, there are certain things that you can say. You can say, "Would an all-loving God seriously send me somewhere where I'm going to burn for all of eternity?" Right? Would you be happy if I'm in that situation? Would it be paradise for you knowing that I'm burning in hell? Those kind of things, right? So there are questions that once you get to the point where you can have an open and honest conversation about beliefs and your religion or lack thereof, those conversations get a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's true. And I can see that in my own life as well. We have two family members who are very, very different. Both of them are religious, but one of them is kind of like the type of person that would be like, well, I'm going to be praying for you. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, thanks. I'm good.
Yeah.
Um,
um, and
yeah, and
and
the
you know
other
it's okay.
one,
Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say, and the other one is like we can have these conversations. We talk about the different ideas in their belief and my belief, and compare them, and talk about evolution, and talk about the Big Bang, and and it's cool, and we're good.
Yeah, that's really cool that you can have those conversations. For the other person, I mean, you can say no thanks, or you can even just say, thank you very much. I really appreciate that coming from you. That means a lot to me. And then that way they can see that you're a kind, nice person as well, right? So
Okay, I could do that.
you
Yeah,
could
I
try
guess
it, maybe
like
throw them off a little bit.
yeah, like try not to take it so personally. Like they're kind of thinking
Yeah.
that you're a sinner.
Yeah, and even if you do take it personally, I mean, if you just respect, just show them some type of respect and kindness, sometimes it has an effect where they'll think about it next time. Maybe they'll approach you in a different way.
True, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think when people love each other, in the case of romantic partners, right? They can make an effort to look past these really big differences, even if they may seem big. I think it definitely helps, like you said, when you're both closer on the spectrum, than all the way to the opposite ends.
Yeah, definitely. There's a
um,
book called In Faith and in Doubt by Dale McGowan, and he talked to about 200 couples that were all in different spectrums of belief. Some of them were like Mormons. One of them had renounced their Mormon faith, and it was like how their relationship played out. someone who was a Jew and the other person who was trying to become a Jew to get married to this person, and just a lot of different diverse beliefs in this book. And he talks about, he keeps in contact with them for a long period of time and kind of explains how their relationships evolve and stuff over the time. And then some people by the end were together, and sometimes they were not. And sometimes they actually built stronger relationships and bonds. So it's a really cool book to check out. Jason Freer just put a Muslim man he works with refuses to believe he's an atheist because he's so nice. Yeah, I've had that happen as well.
Well, he's Canadian, and what are you gonna do?
So am I. So
Yeah, these damn
us darn
Canadians,
Canucks. Yeah,
they can't.
we're
They
so
can't.
bad. We treated you so bad.
Like trying to one up Americans with all your kindness and love. Stop it. Stop it.
That's funny.
Like David said, how dare you be so nice?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to set boundaries, right? If there's somebody that's like just way too extreme, and constantly pushing or being antagonistic, but we can't always completely avoid people. And honestly, I probably wouldn't suggest that anyway. That's probably not the best way to go, right?
Yeah.
Like as humans, we have to try to find ways to compromise, to work
Right.
together.
Yeah.
If we want that relationship to continue, whatever it may be, as a couple, with family, with friends, with coworkers, and if we were to avoid all family, that would kind of make it a little bit tough when you get together and have family gatherings. So, what do
Yeah.
you think are some healthy ways that we can handle differences that around things like rituals, right? Like when everybody, I don't know, if you have a family dinner, people may have specific traditions that they do that may be connected to religion, like prayer or
Right.
stuff like that, like
Hmm.
holidays, family celebrations. And feel free to give like examples from your life if you have.
For sure. And I just want to preface this by saying too that if you are in a situation where it is harmful, even if it's a family member, you definitely shouldn't be forced to interact with that person. You like you said, you should be able to set some boundaries. And if it is a person who's causing harm to you, like in my book, I talk about the guy who basically got in my face and threatened to punch me because I was wearing a shirt that
Mm.
said, "There's no hell, be kind anyway." If those situations happen, you don't have to stick around. It's not obligated. There's no obligation to have these cordial conversations,
Yeah.
And there's times too where I am a dick, but I try my
You.
best to, yeah. There are times where I try my best to, be kind and cordial, but there are times where you do have to put your foot down. So I just have to put a little caveat in there just in case, right? But yeah, the conversations around the dinner table, especially during holidays and things like that. Again, it's kind of like where you're at in your journey, I guess you'd call it. Whether you're angry about religion, whether you're now at a peaceful place where you can accept other people's beliefs, and it's really hard to do that when people don't respect who you are. And I think that's, for the longest time, that's what I was trying to do, is just get that respect for being who I am. And I think that once you have that, it's a magical feeling, because I can sit around the dinner table now and people are praying and I'm just sitting there just being quiet and respectful, but I'm not bowing my head, I'm not closing my eyes, and people are fine with that. People respect that. But it depends on your family. Like, there are extremes. There are people who are saying like, no, if you're at the dinner table, you're bowing your head or whatever, right? And that's something that you can discuss with your family members if you feel comfortable to do that. Some people, they actually are just comfortable to just bow their head and just think of something else, or sing a song in their head, or wink at somebody across the table, or whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable in those situations. When it comes to having the conversations, that's kind of where street epistemology is a really good tool.
Love that.
And you and I both got to see Anthony Magnabosco at NanoCon,
Yeah.
which was amazing. And he wrote the foreword to my book. So he's one of the ones that I reached out to when I was going through my angry atheist phase, and he helped me out of it. But, having cordial conversations, the best way to do it is to ask open-ended questions that don't get someone's hackles up, right? So instead of shouting across the table, "Why do you believe in myths?" you could say something like, "Well, what is it that's giving your life meaning and purpose?" and it gives them the ability to express themselves. And then you can say, okay, well, I understand where you're coming from there. This is the way I think of things. We don't have to agree, and we can still get along. And
I
that's,
like that.
it doesn't
Humanism
always work,
and
but
epistemology,
mhm,
like great mix.
yeah, for sure. But like I said, it doesn't always work. There's going to be people who are, angry. The other thing too, so I kind of learned from recovering from religion when I was going through the training. um, Everyone's on a different journey and everyone's at a different place. And there's going to be some people who, when you come out to them about your lack of belief, they're going to get angry at you. And it's not necessarily that they're angry at you. They're just angry because they thought that you were something that you weren't.
Mhm.
And this is what's going on with a friend of mine right now. Him and his wife are having a bit of a crisis because they've been together for 16 years. And she just recently started kind of going down the religion train. And it was, some things that have happened in the news that kind of pushed her towards that, because she grew up religious and then dropped it. They've been together for 16 years. They have a couple kids, and now she's kind of thinking she's going to go back. So he was having a bit of a crisis, and I met with them and was just talking about, like, think of all the commonalities that you have. Think of all the things that, you've built your life on the last 16 years. And you might not be able to respect her at this point because of this belief, but think of all the things that you do respect about her, and try and focus on those things for now. And then, you can have the chat later, if you're comfortable to have that chat. And at first he was having a really difficult time trying to reconcile his relationship, and then he just messaged me today saying that things are going a little bit better, and they've actually been able to chat about it, and they're kind of on the same page when it comes to how they're going to be, raising their family and things like that. So it kind of worked out for him, but it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, no, that's true. It doesn't always. But I definitely think what you said can be really helpful, because you take uh all of the ideas of humanism, right? Respecting people's basic rights, being kind, being compassionate, being understanding, meeting people where they're at, and then also using epistemology to not not to challenge them or to convert them, but rather to understand better where they're coming from. Like in the case of your friend, he could probably be able to find out why his wife felt that maybe there was a void, or that there was something missing, or that perhaps religion was bringing some type of comfort that she wasn't getting from anywhere else at that moment. So I think like a mix of both of them can be really helpful.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. She was missing the finding the meaning. She's getting to be midlife and having a midlife crisis and saying, well, maybe there is nothing after this life, and it's scary. So I'm going to start thinking about, other things. And, other people have been there too. It's not an uncommon thing. People will start looking for meaning, if they feel like they have no meaning. And I think it's important for us to kind of show that you can make meaning for yourself and make meaning in your life, make purpose for yourself. And right now, my family and my children are my meaning and purpose. That's what I'm doing everything for right now. And that might change in the future, because I'm sure my kids are going to get older and they're not going to want as much to do with me. And then I have to kind of reinvent myself and find my meaning and purpose again. But it's a luxury we have as humanists, as atheists, to be able to make that meaning and purpose for ourselves. It's not handed to us on a silver platter with a side of French fries or whatever.
Right, and I like fries with anything. Fries are good with anything,
That's true.
especially with humanism. Um, yeah. So, you know, I think that partnerships is a really hard thing to navigate when both people have different beliefs. But I think it adds a whole other level of challenge when there's kids involved, right? Like, who gets to decide what faith or no faith the children are raised with, right? Because obviously, if you have a Christian and a Muslim that have a child together, which is not the most common combination, but I would say Christian and atheist maybe. Um, the difference is going to be very noticeable. So how do we talk to kids about belief and non-belief without forcing them to believe what we want them to believe? Because
Yeah.
who is it? Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's always like,
Mhm.
teach kids how to think, not what to think.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think that could be a. I guess I suppose that could be.
Yeah, it's important not to indoctrinate children into any type of belief system, whether it's atheism, humanism, Christianity, Islam, whatever it is. You don't want to just place something like a label on them that they have to live up to. That they're like, I don't even know how I got here or why it is that I believe what I believe. Because then, if a foundation is made on sand, it's just going to crumble, right? You got to build your foundation one brick at a time. There's a really good podcast called Raising Free Thinkers by Dale McGowan. You can find it on any of the podcast places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever they are. And there's 31 episodes. And he basically talks about how he started the podcast and the reason why he wrote the book called Parenting Beyond Belief in the first place. His kid was, I think, 4 or 5, and he was climbing the stairs. And he said, "Oh, why are you getting so big?" And he turned around and he said, "Well, I guess God just wants me to grow." And he said it wasn't the God thing that made him upset. Like he was just thinking like that's the first time that he's ever been incurious about why. He just placed it all on God, right? So he just started developing these 9 best practices that he found were really good for raising free thinkers. And one of them is actually religious literacy. So teaching them about different religions, teaching them about Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, even the ancient mythology like Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Egyptian mythology, just lots of things. And then we even have a book on like indigenous stories from back when there's like Turtle Island, right? There's lots of different things because then the kids can kind of see that okay, these are cool stories that humans make up because that's what we are. We're storytellers. Another one of the best practices is um, like comparative religions. So like having like a natural, like I'm really lucky because we have that natural ability within our family to see different types of like diverse beliefs. So they'll come to me and say, "Dad, you believe in God?" And I'll say no, but and they'll ask me why, and I'll just say, "Well, I don't find any evidence to believe in a God, but Mom does, so go talk to her." And then they'll go and talk to her about it, and then they'll ask her questions, and then she gives them her answer, and then she'll say, "Go talk to Dad." So it's kind of cool that way. And there's lots of different things within the 9 best practices. I don't want to bore everyone with all the details and stuff right now. But I've spoken on it before, and Dale McGowan is, his podcast is a really good resource for that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'm gonna have to check it out. Because it's interesting to, I mean, even as an atheist, to think about the different ways that we can teach children to. Because I don't necessarily have to teach my kid, hey, you gotta be an atheist or else,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
or you gotta be a good humanist or else you're going to humanist
Hmm.
hell. Um,
Yeah, and
whatever that may be.
keeping them unlabeled is another one of the best practices because you would never say like my kid is a Red Wings child or a Toronto Maple Leafs child or something, right? So why would you say they're a Christian child, an atheist child, or a Muslim child? Like just keep them unlabeled because again, that's putting that barrier, that label on them that they have to live up to, that they don't know what it is that they're actually defending.
Yeah, and let them sort of experiment on their own and find their own path.
Yeah,
I mean, I could compare it to like people's gender expression, right? Like you don't push that down and like hide it in the closet. Like let the kids learn about it, how they feel about it, but expose them to different ideas, not just to one specific lane.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah. So when I when Joe and I first started to talk about my deconversing, because I was the one that first started deconversing. I noticed that we were going at sort of different speeds, so to speak. Like, um, I had to let go of certain beliefs that he hadn't given up yet.
Mm.
And of course, I, I think that nobody should go into marriage with the goal of converting the other person. But do you think that if one of the partners is more outspoken about their beliefs or lack of belief, that it can be harmful to their relationship, or should they tone it down, or should they just be honest and open?
So there's a really cool exercise that you can do, two different exercises. One of them is actually doing like a word cloud, which you can go and just type in word cloud on Google, and basically you and your partner can sit there and you can come up with words that describe your relationship, and you can make this giant big word cloud, and you can actually print it out and put it up on your wall. And it's a really cool exercise to see like what commonalities you do have. When it comes to the difference of beliefs, and especially when you're trying to find that common ground, is go through a chart, and on the one side it says benefits to being in an interfaith relationship, and negativities or disadvantages. And you'll start to see why there's certain things that are going to be kind of triggers for your partner, maybe. So like for example, someone can say, I don't feel like I can be as good of a Christian in our relationship because of this. And then that way you'll know, okay, well, my partner wants to be a better Christian, so how can I facilitate that for him or her? Right? What can I do to help them? Can I help them by taking the kids to the park so that they can go to church on their own, or whatever it is that they feel like they need to do? But it's a really good way of seeing what it is that they need from the relationship at that point, right? And you can do this over time as well, right? Like maybe their needs will change over time, so you can continue to keep doing these exercises to find out what is it that I need to provide for my partner so that they can feel comfortable in this relationship.
But I like that, because it could be something as simple as, you know, going to church with them, right?
Hmm.
Because I may be an atheist, but if my husband was still, practicing religion, which he's not, but if he was, and he asked me, to come to church with him because, you know, whatever, because he likes the company, because he wants me to uh, meet the pastor or whatever, as long as he's not like trying to convert me, if it's
Right.
good with me going there and sitting down and bringing my book and sitting and reading my book,
Yeah.
then, I feel like that's a good way of supporting the person without giving up your own values and your own beliefs, without
Yeah.
feeling pressured to be converted. But
Yeah,
at the
for
same
sure.
time, yeah, yeah,
And it's
being
not always going to work either, because maybe someone is traumatized by church and they can't even set foot in the building anymore, right? So then they have to express that within their side of the disadvantages, be like, you know what, I'm very uncomfortable within the church setting, so I can't go to church with you. And then at least you'll know, okay, well, my partner's saying I can't go to church with you, so that means that maybe we have to find another space to go to, like maybe a Sunday assembly or a Toronto Oasis, or maybe even a Unitarian Universalist congregation, since they're a little bit, they kind of accept
or
everybody. Or just go to the park or something, right, and not go to the church, or have one go and not the other. Just lots of different things. But the charts that you figure out will give you a little bit more information about what it is that that person is comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with.
and it's all about communication, right? Like
Hmm.
making sure that the other person understands what your wishes are, what your beliefs are, what your needs are, and what your boundaries are as well. Like you said, if you can't be in the church with the pastors or whatever because it brings you back bad memories or trauma, but you're okay with the church potluck that they're
Right.
doing outside of the church and in a
Yeah. Yeah.
restaurant or whatever, and just to be, with the community, because that's one thing that church offers, that religion offers a lot, that we're still working on in the humanist spaces, but we don't
Yeah.
have as many. It's that community, that sense of having a neighbor that if you need something, that person's gonna be there. um and I feel like a lot of the people that do attend church are not necessarily what we paint Christians to be,
Yeah.
pushing you to be converted or whatever. They're just there because they want to do good, they want to be better, they want to improve themselves, and they do lots of stuff for the community. We have a church over here in our area, and they do a lot of stuff with the local school, which is a Title I school, which means that the majority of the kids there receive reduced lunch, because they're below the poverty line. And
Right.
so what the church does is they put holiday events together. They do in the Mate Park. They bring little, I don't know, like Santa visiting for Christmas, the Easter Bunny, all these kind of things, and they bring them to the school. But they don't do like a service. It's just the things for the kids. So
Yeah.
like they do stuff for the community. They're not, you know,
Absolutely. And
like we always,
there's
yeah, we always talk about the harm, but we can't deny that they do good things, and you can be supportive in that sense. Oh, so please
Definitely,
go
yeah,
ahead.
for sure. No, no, that's okay. And I was just gonna say, I was just gonna add to it that yeah, if studies have shown that the majority of people go to churches and mosques and stuff to find that community. A lot of people in surveys they'll answer, what is it that you go to church for or to worship services for, and they usually say for community. Um, and I think the one problem that we have as secular communities is that we don't have the funding. Like we can get the nonprofit status, but we don't have the deep pockets of these organizations that have been having the monopoly on that for so long. We don't have that. We don't have a way to keep up with that. We rely on people giving money or putting our own money into it. With Sunday Assembly Detroit, we put in a lot of money ourselves just to make things happen. And we do get donations here and there, but to keep everything running, it's mostly the board, the leadership that's actually having to put the time and the effort and the money into it. And it gets really difficult to keep going because we just don't have the funding that other organizations do.
Yeah, without forcing people to give their 10%. you
Yeah.
know, um, yeah, that's a thing that, for example, like the church that you mentioned earlier, with Joel Austin, right? He's here in Houston. I'm in Houston as well. So the majority of the people that attend that church are, they have a higher income and they
Yeah.
have a better ability to give, and that's why they go to these places, because they feel fancier, and they have
Right.
all the nice stuff around, and so people donate quite a bit of money, and they feel like
Hmm.
they want to get the return to that. um but yeah, we definitely don't have that in secular spaces. We don't have rich people um giving money, because it seems that the all the billionaires are Christian nationalists, I suppose.
Yeah, well, and the
uh,
thing too is that we just don't have like the archdiocese or whatever too that have all this funding, right? Like even there's the Ahmadiyya Muslims in Canada here. I'm sure that you have some of those as well. It's just a different sect of Islam, and for some reason they just have all this money, and they have this giant compound in Toronto where they have a movie studio, and they're making
uh,
videos like and they're all over the internet about like going out on the street and converting people to Islam. It's just like I don't even know where they get this money from. It's just insane. But yeah,
uh,
it's interesting. But hey, Kelly,
oh,
I love
Kelly's in the
Kelly.
chat. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's with Black Non-Believers and Michigan Atheists.
Yeah, and she's also part of Sunday Assembly Detroit as well. I see her quite often
Oh
with
yeah.
that. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, she just mentioned that. That
yeah.
she needs to start doing more.
Well, I'm having a hard time right now with the whole border situation because I'm in Windsor, and
Yes.
to get there is a little bit difficult right now with all the craziness that's happening. And
Yeah,
yeah,
nobody
it's
wants
been
to
rough.
cross the border and get stuck down there.
Yeah,
Don't do
I
it.
mean, yeah, I mean,
Stay in
ICE
the
is kind of
safety of
scary.
Canada. Oh yeah, I mean they're going after everybody. It doesn't matter whether you have papers or not. When there's no
Mm,
due process, it doesn't
yeah,
really matter, because you can't prove it to anybody anyway.
right. You need to come to Canada though to BajaCon next year in
I know,
August.
I do, I
Yeah,
do. Yes.
Jason Freer is actually one of the organizers of
Yeah,
BajaCon,
yeah.
and
He's
it's an
he's been on my show
amazing.
a couple of times. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and it's an
he's
amazing
he's kind of okay. He's
group.
all right. Yeah, you know, like he's awesome. Love you.
Yeah, we live really close to each other too, which is cool.
Yeah. So, this thing about community, we are trying to build community within atheist and humanist spaces. Um, but speaking of the topic, okay, that we're on about um interfaith relationships, there's many people within our community because we are atheists, right? You're
Mhm.
gonna find that oftentimes you're the only atheist person in your family. And I've heard several people who have problems with either their partner or the partners, those who are polyamorous, or with other family members, because we are very outspoken and we don't mince words when it comes to religious harm, or when it comes to talking about our past religious traumas. But sometimes these differences can make the other partner, or it can be the opposite, right? It can be that their partner is much more indoctrinated Christian who wants to go to church, and the other person doesn't want to go to church. And either one of the partners can feel sort of invisible, or they can feel like they're wrong, or they can feel personally attacked. And I think that, humanism can um, helps people approach these kind of situations with more compassion instead of
Yeah.
being defensive. So, do you have any advice or any kind of approaches that you've taken in your own life that can be taken so that we can have these conversations, being open and being honest without making the other person feel hurt or insulted? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely one of the tips is to take it slow. So I don't know if I've told you my story before. When I started with recovering from religion during the pandemic in 2020, I wasn't really out that long about my lack of belief. Might have been like a year or two before that. And my wife, I didn't know how to explain it to her what RFR was, because really we're there to be, a shoulder to cry on. We're not there to deconvert anyone. But the name recovering from religion sounds really harsh if it's someone who's religious, right? To hear that.
yeah.
So I just wasn't open about my involvement with them for like almost 2 years. It was about 2 years when I finally was able to tell her that I was volunteering with this organization. And the way that I approached it was just to say, hey, I'm volunteering with this organization. This is what they're called, but it's kind of a misnomer because what we do is this. And I kind of explain, that we're there just for people, any part of their journey. We don't try and deconvert anyone. We're there if anyone wants, like, still believes and they want to find a different church. We help them find a different church, that kind of thing, right? Just resources. Um, and then it was kind of once you realize what it was okay. And then over time, we've developed that mutual understanding, from just having these good cordial conversations over time, that she understands that I'm not doing anything to be malicious. I'm not doing anything in my activism to try and, you know, squash religion or anything. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the common ground between us and people who are more progressive in their religious belief, people that are willing to work together. Because you mentioned Christian nationalism before, and technically, I mean, it's more of an extreme organization. And it's not really that middle ground that we're aiming for. So what I'm aiming for is the people who are progressive and willing to work together. And just over time, she's been, with me on this journey, even though she's more of the background type person. She doesn't like to be in the public and stuff like that. So like I'm kind of doing this on my own, but she's there, kind of cheering me on and behind the scenes, because she understands that my goals are actually worth fighting for. And I feel like a lot of people that are in the same boat, it's like, they may have like a podcast or uh, a YouTube show where they're maybe a little bit more harsh. And I think that just dipping your toe in and over time explaining to your partner or whoever it is that's asking questions, explain to them why you're doing it, and just slowly let them in on that. And over time, I think that if you can build that mutual respect and mutual understanding, it's going to be a lot easier to have them uh, respect why you're doing it.
Yeah, I think it's hard to, have to remind everybody every time that we do a video, we're not trying to attack individuals. We are
Right.
trying to call out the harm that organized religion has done to society, to legislation, to people's basic rights, taking away the rights of women, of people of color, of LGBTQ people, trans people, and so well, now immigrants as well, right?
Hmm.
Um, so like I think that there is a big difference in doing activism to try to call out harm, and the people who are in the stage of angry atheists trying to deconvert everybody around them, kind
Yeah.
of like the same way that the Christian nationalists are trying to convert everybody around them, right? And it's
Hmm.
like those of us that are past that super angry stage, we come to the understanding that we are not trying to harm anybody, and it's actually it's the opposite, right? We're trying to be humanists, we're trying to be compassionate, understanding, and working with others who are on the same page.
Yeah.
um Even like my husband and I, we, like I said, I was the first one to come out to say, hey, I'm an atheist. And I mean, he kind of knew that because when we first met, I didn't have a religion, and I got into it because his family and my baby was about to be born with some severe health issues. So it's kind of like vulnerable time for me when I got into religion.
Right.
When it was coming out of it, it was like I was several steps ahead, and I didn't. I think because of a little bit of lack of communication between us on the religious and spiritual aspect, I didn't realize that he wasn't as religious as he seemed.
Right.
That he was just more so like for fitting in with his family and stuff like that.
Yeah, and a lot
Um,
of it is, tradition,
yeah,
family ties and things like that. But no, I mean, you did the right thing by just kind of allowing him the time and you know, the space that he needed to be able to get through that.
yeah, because
Mhm.
I definitely came into the atheist community online first and for quite a few months. And then he was kind of curious, and at first I think he was a little skeptical, thinking that it was just another church,
Yeah.
that it was another religion basically. And he was a little I mean, it's a it's a valid concern for somebody that doesn't know what humanism or atheism is. And but we talked, like, again, communication, we talked about it,
Mhm.
and I was like, like, these people are really smart. These are people that care, people that have values that are not tied up to whether they're gonna go to an eternal afterlife or not. They're
Yeah.
just doing it because they want other humans to be happy.
Mhm.
And so he was like, all right, I'll give it a try. And then he started getting, like, listening to when we will do like after shows for some other live streams. Then we'll go on Discord and do after shows, and you could connect with the hosts and stuff. And so he started getting more and more involved with the people and realizing that these were pretty solid human beings that wanted better for everybody else and not just for themselves. I mean, he was happy to go to NanoCon. He was like really excited to see everybody over there, to meet you, to meet.
Yeah.
I mean, we've met some of the others here in Texas before, but I think giving people that space to deconvert or not even deconvert, because you don't have, like you said, RFR.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily only deal with people who are atheists. They deal with people who came from, like, I don't know, evangelism or
Yeah. Mhm.
Jehovah's Witnesses, right? And they're still faithful. They still believe in God or Jesus or whatever they may be, but they're no longer tied up to the extreme cult, sort of organized religion that comes with those more extreme, like evangelism.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I recently had Tim Whitaker on my show, and
Mhm.
he's an ex evangelist, but he's still religious. He does the show with April A. Joy, and like we had a great conversation. We connected on our mutual understanding of, like, hey, we both don't want Christian nationalism, and Christian nationalism is not the average Christianity. And so it's like, people can have these kind of conversations, and they can deconvert up to whatever level they're comfortable
Yeah,
deconverting. And it doesn't mean reaching atheism. It can be like, okay, this is where I stop, you know?
right. There's a newish term called deconstruction, and that's what a lot of people seem to be doing these days, is where they deconstruct their
Okay.
original traditional beliefs and they come up with beliefs that are comfortable to themselves. And to me, that's not something that I would do for myself, but at the same time, I can understand why people need to have that connection and that meaning. There's a guy by the name of David Hayward. He goes by the Naked Pastor because he used to be a pastor, and he actually deconstructed his beliefs to the point where now he is an atheist. But for the longest time, he was kind of a pantheist, just kind of believed that everything was God,
Mhm.
nature and that type of thing, which I feel like a lot of people do go through different stages. And I remember even Tracy from Atheist Community of Austin, I think that's how she described when she was coming out of religion. She kind of went through a pantheist phase where she just thought, well, everything is God. And then
Mhm.
it's like, well, if you're going to say everything is God, why do you need another label for it? It's just nature, right? Just nature and the cosmos.
True. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I think my husband Joe, he was kind of like that. And we, when we had more conversations, he explained that that's sort of what God meant to him, that he wasn't like a follower of Jesus, or he'd never
Hmm.
actually even read the Bible, which I didn't even know that. So I was like,
most people don't.
okay. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was more of like a spiritual belief, and he eventually deconstructed that as well. And
Hmm.
so, but it takes some people longer, and I think that's one of the key things to do: not push or force your partner to come to your side.
Yeah.
Just meet them where they're at and support them whatever you can be comfortable doing to support them.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. So I think we did cover this a little bit earlier, right? Like family relationships, not just like partners. That can be really tricky. Um, I hate to say it, but uh, I think sometimes when a family member has all of their identity tied to either, it could be either to be an atheist or to be a Christian, it
Hmm.
can ruin relationships, not just between two family members, but with the whole family dynamics.
Yeah.
And sometimes these beliefs can go beyond just beliefs, to where they actually harm people, because you know for the workforce specifically, can be one very very harmful thing, that can take people's basic rights away.
Yeah.
So you know we we try to set boundaries, and without necessarily completely alienating family. Like in my example, what I've had to do is, there's a specific family member that we're in group chats, and I had to remove myself from the group chat because
Mm.
this person wouldn't stop engaging in negative ways. So when we see each other in person, it's just very very superficial.
Right.
um, but when it comes to disagreeing in such a big way, like I don't know, things like people don't deserve healthcare, right? Like I had another family member that was like, well, if you want better healthcare, you should get a better job. And I'm
Mm.
like, that's very privileged because I can't get a better job, or
Right. Yeah.
there's many different factors to why I can't get a better job.
Right.
Um,
And some people's health situations are worse than others as well, right? So some people would be paying a little bit more money than somebody else would, right? So.
right, like I was blind for several years, and
Hmm.
without my assistive devices for my hearing, I'm completely deaf.
Right.
And so when it comes to things like that, another instance was in that same conversation. We were talking about my teenager who's had open heart surgeries, and I was like, well, the reason we were able to afford these open heart surgeries was because of government funded healthcare. And if we don't have that, if we don't have that healthcare as a basic human right, then my kid wouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
So like, how do we deal with situations where agreeing to disagree is not possible,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to family.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to deal with, because the other thing too is that you can't force people to believe what you believe. You can't force them to completely understand where you're coming from. And I think that's where, like, the saying "kill them with kindness" is like the only thing you can really do. So if you just kind of show that you're a kind person, and that your beliefs, or your, even if it's just talking about, the healthcare system and what your beliefs are for the healthcare system and what you think should happen, just showing them that you're a good person, and that what you're saying, is true. You can say it with confidence. You can just, like, this is why I think this. Give them a reason for it. And if they then turn around and say, well, I don't think this and this, you can say, okay, well, I value your opinion, but at the same time, this is why I think this is important to me. And you don't have to share, that belief, but this is what it means to me, and this is why I'm holding on to this. And if you kind of say it with confidence, and you say it just in a strength, it's like a kindness, um, you know, even if they don't agree with you, it might end the conversation, because you're standing your ground, you're being strong about it, and maybe it'll give them something to think about later. It's kind of placing a pebble in their shoe that they're going to have to kick around later and say, you know what, maybe AJ was right when she was saying that, we should be having some type of government healthcare to, cover these additional costs for people that are in dire situations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, fortunately, this person came along. This was like during Trump's first administration,
Mm.
so I think everybody learned their lesson after that one. Luckily, well, not everybody, but a lot of people did.
Yeah.
Lucky for me, this person did, and because I had to cut them out at that time, because to me that was a boundary when it came to them saying, that my kid didn't deserve that basic healthcare.
Mm.
That was for me a boundary that I couldn't get past. But seeing them change was what allowed me to be like, okay, you know what, you can admit that you were wrong, and
Right.
so that I can give you that chance again to be part of
Yeah.
my life, because I can see that you're making the effort. I'm a really big believer that people have the ability to change and that they can improve if they're given the chance.
Yes.
Sometimes we may be the ones to bring it to their attention and they just like double down. But I
Right.
still, even in those, even with those people, I still have hope that they have the capacity to come to their senses and
Yeah.
realize, hey, you know what, this thing I'm saying is harmful. You know, I have a friend in our community that used to be a white supremacist,
Mm.
and but he tells me about it all the time. Okay, how horrified he is to having taken part in that when he was a Christian,
Right.
and but now his kid is trans and he's like hardcore ally and of trans people and LGBTQ people, people
Yeah.
of color, immigrants. He's a really awesome person. Unlike if I had met him before that change, I don't know how I would react to him changing, right?
Yeah.
So so when let's say that we had met him in his Christian nationalist white supremacist days, do you think it's still worth it to practice empathy even with people that are actively causing harm with boundaries, but
Yeah.
still
It's a really good question, and it's a really hard answer, because there is a spectrum.
levels? Yeah,
There's yeah. It's like, if this person is being extremely harmful, then no, I don't think it's worth it. I think, um, yeah, it's definitely just going to depend on the spectrum of where they're at. Like, if it seems like they're willing to have a conversation, like, I mean, it's worth having a conversation. But if their whole point of their conversation is just to shoot you down, um, I think it's still worth talking to them, because I do feel like if you approach them with, clear, concise messaging that is calm, kind. You kind of mimic the way that you want the conversation to go, right? You demonstrate how the conversation should go. And if they are the one raising their voices, they're the ones that look like they're struggling, or they look like they're being the aggressor. So other people that are watching are going to see that you're the one that's able to keep your calm. You're the one that's being kind in the situation. You may not influence the person you're speaking to, but you might influence the audience that's
Mhm.
around. And then you're also going to provide that itch that's going to stick on them, that they're going to have to deal with at some point in their future. But yeah, like if someone's extremely harmful and it's going to be a bad situation, I wouldn't even consider approaching. It's just
Okay.
you have to kind of take each situation in itself and evaluate whether or not you think it's worth risking harm to yourself or to others.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm thinking about a specific, um, this person that I mentioned that I had to remove from myself from the chats and stuff like that. It's been really hard because this is somebody that's part of our family, and but what you just said, I just realized that I'm probably in the wrong a little bit because, but I mean that's how we grow, right? That's how we
Yeah,
grow.
no, that's good.
By realizing that we may have been doing something that wasn't the best approach.
Yeah.
So this person, will come in this group chats and talk about topics that were uh, that triggered me a little bit, to be
Right.
honest. And so other people who were the audience, I guess you could say, the other members of the chat were like, "Hey, let's not talk about this anymore because it always brings animosity to the group." And so we would agree to it, and then this person will start bringing it back up,
Mm,
and me, instead of taking a deep breath and responding kindly, I will react, and then I will end up looking like the asshole, like the dick.
right. Right.
And
Hmm.
then some family members kind of distance themselves from me because this person kept rising my temperature so much.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think I could definitely um, work on my own response to things like that.
Yeah, I was trying to keep two things in mind when I go into any situation. And the first one is, what can I learn from this? Because that's a really important thing to just keep asking yourself the entire time you're there. Like, what can I learn from this? Maybe you're going to learn something like you can't have a conversation with this person.
Mm.
So you will learn something from each situation. And the other thing I always think about is, what is my purpose for being here? So if there's a situation where I'm speaking to somebody, I'm thinking in my head, well, what's the purpose? Like, what is it I'm trying to accomplish with this? Because if I can't come up with a good answer, then there's no point in having the conversation, right? Like if you don't feel like this person is going to reciprocate any of the feelings that you are hoping that they will, it might just be worth it to not have the conversation with them at all.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So, you know, today with the US is dealing with so much of that, right? So much of people just throwing hateful stuff out there, and the other side responding in anger, and our heartbeats beat a lot faster, and we're our temperatures are rising. We're getting really frustrated by all of the attacks that are coming from anywhere, from everywhere, not from anywhere.
Yeah.
So do you think there's hope for what America is going through, as somebody looking at it from the outside?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopefully optimistic, but it's not looking good. I do feel like maybe if there's more voices that are, can bring reason, um, compassion, empathy to the situation, then maybe over time. It's really difficult because the other side seems to really be anti all of those things,
You
and it's
mean you mean terrorists? You mean violent terrorists? We need to
it's
be more violent and more
it's
terroristic.
it's really hard, to fight fire with fire. So
It
I
is.
always say to fight fire with water, right? Try and be the water, try and be the calm, cool, collected people, but the problem is that it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. So it's going to be the people that are loud and vocal and in your face. They're the ones that are going to be getting the media attention. They're the ones that are going to be getting, people following them because they're loud and outspoken and boisterous about it. And the people that are trying to be, calm and cool, they're not really getting the clicks and the likes and that type of thing. So it's definitely difficult. But I'm holding out hope. I don't know, but I'm holding out hope.
Yeah, I think I am too. There was this video by Forrest Valkai, that, well, it was like part of a live show, and he was talking about learned helplessness and how so much happening all at once from every angle. People attacking immigrants, them attacking entire cities, the Antifa, whatever it is,
Yeah,
attacking trans people, making them be the bad guys for literally everything that they're not even connected to. And so I feel like we look at that and we feel helpless and we feel like, well, what are they going to do next? And
right. Hmm.
what we've just done is not helping. Like on the protests and marches and the governor speaking against the orders that they're given for the National Guards to, to go to Illinois and Portland, which is a war zone apparently. Terrible, terrible. There's like landmines everywhere, I'm sure. Um, but like, you see out of this and you're feeling, you start learning that hopelessness, and then the next challenge that you're given, you're like, well, that didn't work, so what should I even do anything about this next one, right?
Yeah,
Like, this is already hopeless before it's even there. And so he was saying, don't fall for that. Like,
right.
keep going, like you said, keep bringing those voices together, even
Yeah,
if they're threatening to like bring the National Guard or um the state police, whatever, to specific cities that are more blue. Like Houston is blue in a sea of red, right?
right.
So like we're a pretty big target right now. We're
Yeah,
doing the protests, but like they're like, don't give up. So Forrest was
right.
just saying that, don't give into that learned hopelessness of giving up before the challenge is even there.
Right. And it's probably working if they're telling you it's not, right? Because why would they bother wasting their breath to tell you that it's not working unless it is working?
Is a good point.
And there's going to be a point where people have to answer for the crimes and the things that they're doing. Um,
I
and
hope.
it'll happen. And we're going to be on the right side of history. We're going to be the ones that can say, see, I told you this was going to happen, and this is happening, and it's happened in the past, and it's happening again. Kelly, yes, Kelly, I can be your emotional support Canadian. You can come stay with me. Yeah. So
I know we need a lot of emotional support Canadians.
yeah. Unfortunately, I only have one extra bed, but we can fit as many people as we can in the living room, on the couches, on the floors, whatever you got to do.
Yeah, it's been hard. I mean, when I moved here from Argentina, right, in right after 9/11.
Mm.
And yeah, in fact, my dad had sold everything the day before 9/11, and we woke
Wow.
up and we had like a tiny little TV, and we didn't even have a bed because we had mattresses on the floor. We didn't have a stove because we sold it. We didn't have a
Hmm.
refrigerator because we sold it. And it was to move here, right? We were saving money to move here, but with that happening, it was like they're not gonna let any flights in. And
Right.
so, but the thing was that in Argentina, the situation was horrible. We had like four presidents in 2 weeks. Like
Right.
the
Hmm.
it was completely unstable, unsustainable. Poverty is like insane. People will like steal your shoes, literally.
Wow.
So just to get some money to eat or something. And so we moved here to escape that. And now it's been about 25 years since that move. And I'm like, I've thought about moving to Canada or moving somewhere
Mm,
else. And I'm like, I literally just got my citizenship a couple months ago here.
right. Yeah.
I want to be here. Like we came
Mm,
here for the American dream, right? Like
right.
the hope that it brought to us to come to a place where, freedom was valued, where where we could potentially have better healthcare because I have a lot of medical stuff, and to have to even consider leaving, I just hate it. I
Yeah.
I really like. I just want to keep fighting for what I know this country can stand for and what it can
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely don't want to give
And I
up.
think it will get there again someday. We just don't know when.
Yeah, I mean, I like who say that in the chat? Jason say that it's gonna take America generations to recover.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, I think it will. Like I think we have the means and we have the numbers of people to do that, to do the right thing, to go out and vote, to elect somebody who's not a fascist. Um, we just have to mobilize and
Yeah.
make it happen.
The
Make it
scary
happen.
part is that there's been like a massive um, campaign to replace people in positions that can make an election
Oh, yeah,
rigged. And that's the scary part.
it
Because people
is.
people keep thinking like, oh, 2028, they'll be able to vote him out. It's like, well, he's replaced a lot of people that
Maybe.
gave a hard time the first time in trying to have the count overturned, and I just feel like it's going in a bad direction that way. So I'm
Yeah,
just
like
hoping that something can be done. But
I saw this joke earlier, and it said they're eating the checks and they're eating the balances.
yeah,
You know?
they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs.
But now they ate all the liberals ate all the cats and the dogs, and now so there was nothing left for the Republicans to eat. So they're eating the checks and the balances now. Um, but
uh,
no, I mean it is scary because there was a post from Trump a couple of days ago where he was showing a Trump 2028 hat. So it's
mm,
like he already has it on. I mean, he's had it forever that he wasn't just gonna run one time or the
hmm
second time. That it was it's right now it's just an a dictatorship, or at least he hopes that it will be
yeah.
dictatorship.
Well, he's kind of learned from Zelensky as well that if you get involved in any type of war during an election, then you don't have to hold
Uh,
that election. Um, so yeah, it's
yeah,
a little
you know what?
scary.
That could potentially be why he. Well, but what? Yeah, I would think he would wait a little bit longer, but maybe he's just like laying the foundation for like a civil war within the country, and then eventually, you know, by that point, people will be so exhausted and so fed up that it will actually be like a physical
Yeah,
uh,
or the whole
war.
Venezuela thing, just keep poking the bear until something happens, and then you can say, "Well, I guess we're at war, so I guess we're not having an election."
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
yeah.
But hopefully not. Hopefully this is just you know doom scrolling. But
Uh, yeah. I hope you're right, but we'll see. So let me remind people that Steve has a book called Humanism from the Heart, Building Bridges Beyond Belief, and you can find it on Amazon, on Audible, and on Kindle. And there's a link that should be in the description that you can just click on. It's very affordable for the amount of wisdom that it has in it. It's worth it. I promise.
well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the book does get into several stories that kind of um, tell a narrative of how you can get along with people, but it's not really like a guidebook. I'd say it's more of a memoir with a twist, is what I like to say. So it's, like a lot of stories that have happened to me and kind of how I was able to pull myself out of these situations, or the decisions that I was able to make based on prior information and things like that. So I think it's more of an enjoyable read than a guidebook. But I think when I do the sequel eventually, I'm going to call it Humanism at Hand: Practical Principles for Peaceful Partnerships. And I'm going to make it more of like a how to have conversations guide. I just didn't want to retread territory that's already been done with like How to Have Impossible Conversations by Dr. Peter Boghossian. That's a really good book.
Oh,
And
that's
other
cool.
books by Dale McGowan, who has kind of already talked about raising free thinkers, interfaith relationships with his book In Faith and in Doubt. I think those type of books are more of like the guidebooks on the how to. Mine's more of the actual um, application of those.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still pretty good. I like sort of like the life lessons because you can see how it can be applicable to specific situations that you may deal with in your own personal life.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. I'm glad that you got that out of there as well. So that's awesome.
okay, so this is gonna be like my upcoming shows tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central. All of these times are Central Time. Okay, so 4 p.m. Central, misinterpretations is gonna be on, and we're gonna be talking about how easy it is to fool the brain. We're gonna play some type of illusions games to try to fool
That's really cool.
our audience, and also I'll try to fool Marin and see if she'll fall for it. The next one is on the 14th, which is next week, next Tuesday. Felicia, I saw her for the first time on Free Thinker Fireside show, and I was like, wow, I gotta have like, she's so freaking smart. I don't know. I just loved the whole conversation. I was like really into it. I was like, you know what, I call the show tangents because I'm not exactly sure where we're gonna land. We're just gonna cover all the things that we can cover in like hour and a half to 2 hours. I just like inviting cool people on my show. Um, then on the 21st, we're gonna have Eli, and he is a really cool guy. All right, and he's really interested in physics and more like astrophysics and star stuff and universe things. And my husband is really into that too. So they were both like, well, we should talk about it live on a show and just uh, help people understand all kinds of cool stuff. We'll probably be reviewing a lot of stuff by Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox. So it's really, really interesting stuff and
And I saw
educational.
Eli in the chat here earlier too, so that was cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was on here earlier.
Yeah,
Not sure if he's on there yet still, but he was earlier. And then okay, November 4th, I still don't have it on there, but that's my birthday. I'm gonna do something. We'll see what happens. I'm just gonna do a live show and maybe invite some people,
nice. That'd
or
be awesome.
just have a good laugh or something. And then November 29th at 4 p.m. for British friendly time. We're gonna have Richard Gilliver, who's all the way across the pond. He's writing a book about philosophy and consciousness. So, like, whenever he comes on the show, I think the very first time he came on the show, we made it almost 4 hours straight, no breaks, because he just loves to talk, and I love to listen to him. Okay, not gonna lie there. I could just sit there and just let him talk and listen. I always learn so much. So we're gonna talk about philosophical arguments and consciousness, the brain. So that's gonna be a very fun conversation. So everybody should tune in for that. Um, so anyways, again, The link for the book is on the description. And this was a really helpful conversation. I and also, you know what? We got a couple more minutes before everybody leaves me. I'm gonna tell you to go to. All right, let me pull it right up real quick because I'm just gonna show people. There's this really cool show that I watch every Thursday called Sodensa. And so I'm giving them some free advertisement. Um, Today they're gonna explore Reddit's religious fruitcakes. Whatever that is. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be fun.
That's funny.
Yeah, so both Dan and Zod, they're really good guys. I've had Dan on my show before,
Yeah,
talking
Dan's
about
great.
veganism. Yeah, of course we were talking about veganism. But yeah,
And one of
so
the cool
everybody,
things
yeah, what did you say?
Oh, one of the cool things about Dan is that actually, he had a conversation with Anthony Magnabosco on his channel when he was doing street epistemology, and Dan was actually at a university and a believer at the time. And his conversation with Anthony was one of the steps in his deconversion. So really cool.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't even know that until
Hmm.
like months after I started. Um, After I met Dan, because I
Oh,
was
okay.
on his show, I was on Dan's show on Truth Wanted,
Yeah.
and then like months later, I'm for some reason the video of Dan with Anthony popped up
Oh, okay.
because I had watched Anthony Magnabosco's videos like obsessively for a few months before that, and
Yeah.
I am certain that I had seen Dan's video, but I didn't connect it to it being the same person.
Right.
Um, so I thought it was awesome. There's two videos. There's the first one, and then there's the one where
Yes.
Dan is
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I would like to do an update," and he lets him know that he was deconstructing.
Yeah.
And then Anthony's the one that actually helped him sort of get started with the show of Truth Wanted.
Yeah. I remember him being a guest for a couple of the first few episodes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
really cool stuff.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
So, um, where was I going with this? I don't know.
I'm
I was just
sorry I cut
saying
you
that
off.
this. No, 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 because I started showing people about the other show. So yeah, I was just gonna tell everybody to head over to Zodenza because that's where I'm gonna go hang out in the chat and listen to all that fun stuff. But on today's show, it was a really good conversation, and we never talk about who's right or who's wrong, right? Like atheists, theists, there's no right or wrong. But rather we were talking about how to live together in harmony, and I think that's really, really important. To everybody watching, doesn't matter whether you're religious, whether you're spiritual, secular, loud atheist, or anywhere in between. We all share the same challenge, the same opportunity to treat each other's as humans first. That's the
Yeah,
most important part.
absolutely.
Um, Parting words, advice, anything.
You don't have to be a perfect parent. You don't have to be a perfect partner. You don't even have to be a perfect person. We just try our best with the knowledge that we have. And like Maya Angelou always said, if you do your best until you know better, and then when you know better, you do better.
I love that. That's beautiful. I'm gonna
Yeah.
clip that. All right. Thank you. Oh, there's Eli. He said he felt appreciated.
Yeah, Eli.
Let's see. Kelly said that she met Dan at the Bad Cruise. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, I was at Dan's wedding actually. Really, really
Oh, that's
cool.
so cool. Yeah. I remember you telling me that at NanoCon.
Oh yeah, yeah. Anthony
Hmm.
Magnabosco was there, of course. Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out in the chat and hanging out with us over here. I see Marion over there. She's gonna be on tomorrow. So everybody, come hang out tomorrow,
Yeah.
4 p.m. Central, with misinterpretations. We're gonna have so much
Thanks so
fun.
much. Misinterpretations. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for being here. Feel free to reach out to me, Facebook, or any way you can get a hold of me. I'm always willing to have a chat with you.
Good stuff. All right, everybody. We'll see you
All
on.
right.
Thank you so much for hanging out and have a
See ya.
good one.